We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game Worn Hockey Podcast. Thanks for the likes, the comments. I kind of weekly go through and look at the listens across all the podcast platforms and YouTube, and we're over just over 3,000 listens, views, whatever. So thank you for that. Keep following, liking it. It kind of raises us up in all the different podcast groups, and share it with your friends. And like I said, as I've said in the past, if you have topics you want me to cover, like we did last week with the and a fantastic topic. I even got tagged on that today when we talked about the warm up jerseys and those changes. Got tagged in a thing about that, blaming me for one of the Chicago collectors that put a website together now for the history of those. So thank you for that. Welcoming a guest back to the show this week with some I say sad news, but changes, and hopefully it all goes in the best. And Nick, the last show we did together had a great reception. Had a lot of people reach out. I know it got shared around a lot of places. You know Nick from WHJCanada.com, World Hockey Jerseys Canada. We talked
and the
about
Greek national team too.
Yep, I was just getting at the Greece ice hockey team. We talked about those jerseys and stuff getting released. Nick, you have start with a big announcement, I guess.
Yeah, the announcement, Jason, and to everyone. There comes a time when you feel inside that maybe you've come to the finish line, as they say. And the last 6 months, it is a feeling that is strong. It's not like when you get packages and you put them in the closet and you don't open them for days or weeks. You kind of know that maybe it's time to, move on. And there are health issues in my life right now with my vision, and it's becoming tiring. So it's a tiring situation, and it gets you down emotionally, Jason. And it's not an easy decision. I've been going since the late 80s, early 90s, long before internet, eBay, preparing list by hand, and
magazines and lists. Yes.
Hockey news advertising. I remember my first ad in January 91. Just a small little classified in the hockey news.
I was in junior high.
And advertising the hockey news was expensive back then.
Oh, I could imagine.
That little ad was like $150, and back then 150. Yeah, but the hockey news was Jason, that was the vehicle to reach people. There was no Facebook, there was no GameWorn.net,
And it was a niche market because it was just those people.
That's it. You had the Murph Denny's, the Milt Byrons, the Brad Moores, the dealers, and it was the same standard. Type out a list, handwrite a list, get the envelopes, lick the postage, and
when postage was reasonable.
Yeah, and send them out and wait till the phone rings. Wait for the money orders, and those green money orders from the U.S. Post.
Oh, yes. Yep.
And then between
layer money orders.
And they were pink too.
Yes.
For Canada. Yeah.
I remember buying those when even still on eBay early on, sending money orders before PayPal and that existed.
Yeah, there comes a time when if you feel it inside that you have to step away, you just can't fight it anymore. You just have to do what you have to do. And I just want to announce to everyone and yourself that I will be winding down the business known as World Hockey Jerseys Canada, a business that started in Athens, Greece in 2005. And I've completed all my deals that I needed to. And from now on, it'll just be selling my inventory. It's going to take me a while, but I know that I feel better now. I feel more calm and relieved and all that. It's a tough decision.
Oh, sure.
You're trying to wrestle with it, Jason, but you can't. You got to listen to what your mind and body and soul say. and I am stepping down. Um, if somebody, I've reached out to some people, somebody wants to take over the site, the door is open, but I see a market change. I see the winds of change too, economic wise and interest wise. I'm seeing, let's say, when I leave, who's going to take over? Like all these dealers that have moved on, like the Murph Denny's and the Brian Moores, there hasn't been a influx of replacements. It's, you look at the Facebook game worn pages, it's people that pick up stuff here and there, one of and all that, and do eBay, or who's going to fill the void of a dealer that has a good relationship with the junior teams. And the photos I sent you when I went to the Quebec Hockey League draft in Sherbrooke as a accredited member representing the Atlantic Winter Sports Federation, that was emotional because I had dealt with a lot of people since the early 90s by phone. It was my first time meeting them, and the rapport and the feeling of each other, getting to meet each other after all these years was touching. Like the Victoriaville Tigre, Audrey, Tom, and all that. I remember I introduced myself to Audrey like at the Quebec Hockey League draft, each team had a box, like a suite for the players. So I mingled in there. I just went by, pick up some jerseys, say hello to the people that hey, it wouldn't be a draft if I did some business there.
Of course.
And I remember the Victoriaville Tigre. I met Audrey, who sends out the jerseys to me, and she was delighted. And the marketing guy was around there, and he heard that I was there, and he goes, "Are you Nick? Are you Nick?" I go, "Yeah." "Oh, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you." It's not about the jerseys, it's about the people.
Exactly.
And that was touching, my final draft in Sherbrooke. Because in the 90s, I used to go, and let me tell you, the Quebec Hockey League is the only league in junior hockey that does arena drafts. Everything is all internet in the O and Western Hockey League now. And
That's
I went there.
interesting that they've still stayed the old way.
They like the presentation. They like the show. It was amazing, Jason, to be.
I can imagine.
I'll remember this, that there were parents, there were sisters, brothers of the prospects. It was such a great atmosphere. One kid was drafted, everybody applauded, everybody was happy for each other. You don't see that in life much today, And I heard that comment a lot from other people. That was it was great to be in that atmosphere. But for me, I knew I made my decision, and I wanted to go to the draft in Sherbrooke to say goodbye and to let them know what I'm up to and working with Greece now. It was a can't miss thing. I have to go. And that made me feel better. And I'll remember that draft. It was emotional. I mean, there were people that I've dealt since the 90s. Who can say that? I mean,
sure, it's that long-term commitment and people that you've worked with now for decades.
Yeah.
Not just random people that come and go, people that have been with those teams that long.
Yeah. Like Nepi and Chicoutimi, Diane and Chicoutimi. Those are people that have been there since the 90s when jerseys were like $50.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted them. Another story, I picked up a Laval Titan back then for $50. Sandy McCarthy, the goon who played with Calgary.
Oh, wow.
And who was selling them? Bob Hartley, the coach. There was actually coaches in charge of game worn jerseys, and you had to make the check payable to Bob Hartley. And wherever Bob went, and in Cornwall with the Aces, the secretary would say, "Nick, we have the jerseys. Please make the checks out to Bob Hartley," as if he negotiated a bonus,
Nice.
But that was how it was done back then.
Sure.
And I want to let people know. And I remember before the draft, I went by and saw Classic in Delson near there, and I had a chance to talk with Drake, with a new person there. And he said, "Nick, let's have a seat. Tell me how you started in the 90s." And when I was telling them his stories, he was fascinated how it was back then. And that's how it was. That's how it was.
And a lot of the younger collectors don't realize,
No,
like you said, started
no.
in magazines, and you would sometimes
Sports Collector's Digest and the Hockey News. That's all.
Sometimes the
That's
list or sections of the list would be posted in the ad,
yeah.
or you would
Mhm.
write to you or whoever
Yeah.
and say, "Send me the list of what you got."
Yeah. That's all it was. And for Canadian readers, I mean, you'd get them a week late and you phone and the jerseys would be sold, you know? But that's how it was. And, you know, the new collectors, and I want to bring up a topic where, you know, the old school clashes with the new school. You know, they didn't know how it was back then. And, you know, old habits are hard to break, you know. We're
Sure.
trying. I've tried, and you know, I mean, but you can tell that the separation of the two schools of thought. That's how it was done. No LOAs back then, no video matching, no photo matching. It was get the money, send out the jersey.
Yeah, and social media has changed it a lot, and then
Yeah,
we saw the forums start
yeah.
up once the internet age would help
Mhm.
some, but it was still in its infancy. It was still run the old school way. Is people would
Yes.
post a list of what they had, and you could
Yeah.
email them and stuff. Now, I mean, a little bit more quicker communication compared to phone or mail.
Yeah.
Be able to email some pictures once you either
Yeah.
took pictures and scanned them previous to digital cameras, or
There were no pictures in the 90s. It was just lists. It was
yeah,
just,
and you just wondered, you got descriptions if you wanted where.
yeah, like Mel Byron's list. There was just a list. There was no full descriptions.
Yeah, usually give you what the year is if you had multiple
That's
years,
right.
and,
Or, you know, two words, heavy wear, light wear, you know.
right? Board burns,
That's all.
holes.
That's all. And but you know what? It was for me, it was I liked it back then. It was more personal. You didn't hide behind the computer, Jason. You actually talked to people. The phone, going to the drafts, going to the sports shows, the Sport Card Expo, the National. Toronto had a lot of shows from Sport Card Expo, Annette Lawrence, Paul Marin, George Morrow, who had the arena shows, the big arena shows that were like the Canadian National.
And I'm
That's
glad
where
some of those still happen.
not many the big expo in Toronto happens, but the
Chicago
little
still
one,
has their
yeah,
big
yeah.
show, but
But
there's, you're
those
right,
shows,
there's not as many, but at least some still
no.
do take place.
But that's how it was. That's where you would gather, congregate to meet, to do some trading, some buying, some selling. But it was mostly advertising the hockey news, SED, send out lists and wait for the phone call and the check or money order.
Right. That money order got there. We know it's good to go.
And you know what? It was nice. It was peaceful. It was like a like a homely situation, very homely.
Sure.
But now with Facebook and internet, you know, there's trolling, there's, you know, I mean, that's not how it was, Jason.
No, and it, I will say, with the expos that happen both
Yeah.
here and in Canada, that
Mhm.
helps keep that call it
Yeah.
tradition alive, and
Yeah.
that face to face, the trading,
Yeah.
whatever it is, the putting a face with a name. The number of times just in the two expos that we've done in St. Louis, and
Yeah.
we went to one in Chicago several years ago, is guys I'd talked to for years finally
Yeah.
getting to just have a beer face to face with them. And I
Yeah.
mean, even if we didn't make a jersey deal, we told stories and all this stuff. And that's, like you said, that's what it's about.
Hey, that's what it was for the Quebec Hockey League drafts that I used to go to. And that was great. You felt more comfortable. The rapport and relationships were built for future, you know?
Oh, for sure. And I mean,
Mm.
you've watched the hobby grow and
Yeah.
change. What do you think of, what's the future of the hobby look like from your perspective?
The things that I would, if we did a SWOT analysis, the threats today that I would consider as a threat, a lot of inventory is set to come out. There's people retiring. There's people that realize that 300 sweaters, what I'm going to do with them. My kids don't want them. That's going to be a lot of jerseys coming out, Jason. Is there enough people to absorb all those jerseys?
Sure. And the teams
Oh
pulling
yeah,
away from using Migray or
yeah,
other people,
mhm,
and doing it themselves, and then
yeah,
pumping them out, or not understanding the either the
yeah,
pricing and they get stuck with them, or
yeah.
not documenting. I
Oh,
mean, it's gotten messy with even some of the way the teams do it.
next year when Adidas is gone, look at the inventory that's going to come out.
Right. Yeah, even just the number of blanks and issued, and
Yeah.
we saw that when Reebok went away,
Yeah.
Adidas took over. His teams blew out just tons
Deja,
of
deja,
crap that you didn't know, and at
deja vu all over again. Deja
yep.
vu all over again. And Fanatics, how they're going to brand that, how they're going to market that with I mean,
And I
an
hope they don't.
another example, I mean, Migrate had 23 teams in the early 2000s, down to what, 5 or 6 teams. Teams are doing it themselves. No experience. I mean, there's young marketing people there that can't answer people's questions. They don't like answer people's questions. They don't want to go over. They want to quick get it out, make the money, you know? And there's another threat. There's another threat. There's not many good experience, like the experience of like, you know, why couldn't Mil Byron be working with the Flyers? Why couldn't I be working together with Brandon Marsh in Toronto? I mean, you know, I mean, why couldn't you be working with the Blues, you know?
Sure, and some teams are receptive to that as we make
Yeah.
more contacts and give it try to help give advice, but
Mhm.
it's a balance of, as you've heard us even talk on other podcasts, is possibility of they don't really care. It's just about the money.
Yeah.
They don't care about the collector. They just want to get them sold. And
Yeah.
what's made it easier for a lot of teams is the easy the apps, the text auction apps, the website apps, where they can just upload the picture, quick description,
Yeah.
auction them off,
Yeah.
and set the minimum price, and not have to worry
That's
about
it.
them, get them shipped, and that's it.
Yeah. That's one threat. The other threat is I've seen it, the pricing has gone down. I mean, 3 years ago with the COVID-free money in North America, Canada and US,
Hmm.
prices were strong, Jason, for junior shirts, minor league shirts and all that. I've seen a big drop in the prices right now. And that's especially the junior market too.
And honestly, to a point, I've seen that drop off in a lot of NHL ones too. Is
Yes,
you saw
yes.
the last few years, you saw either the auction prices or team prices
Yeah,
be high, and the inventory would move. Now the
yeah,
prices, some of them still stick around there if they're being hard listed at a price,
yeah,
and they sit, or the teams put them up for auction. And as you know, I track the St. Louis Blues stuff. Is
yeah,
there's definitely a downtrend. I mean,
yeah,
some of the big name guys still
sure.
hold close, but overall
Yeah,
the prices are down.
yeah. The last classic auction, you know, I have nothing but the best for Mark, uh, Nina, Francis, Drake, and all those people there. But a lot of the common stuff in the juniors, I talked to a few collectors, they saw a big difference in pricing
Oh,
down.
sure.
Like I'll give you an example, Jason. Pete Peters, one of the major contributors on the Authentic page,
Hmm.
sorry, on the Game Worn page, as well as the Authentic page. He had a Salt Lake City Golden Eagles, you know, with the feathers and the big round logo.
Oh, yeah.
It was a Tom Draper, and he was trying to get through Facebook $5.99, $6.99, and it was a Mark's auction, and I was the winning bidder at $287.
Wow.
And that's again, Classic does it the best. Their jerseys, there's a variety of everything for everybody,
Oh, yeah.
but I noticed the pricing, and with my eBay auctions too.
But and I guess let me ask you this question too: is you and I are both old school. A lot of the
Mhm.
guys that are on that join me on the podcast on a
Yeah,
regular basis are the older school collectors,
yeah.
and appreciate the older teams. But a lot,
Mhm.
do you think, and I kind of lean this direction, is the newer people coming to the hobby don't give a damn about the old stuff, the historic stuff, or the
Yeah,
minor league teams that don't exist. They might care if it's a pipe, if or is or was a pipeline to
yeah,
what their current team is, maybe. But beyond that, there's not
yeah,
the. We're all getting older. We're not
yeah,
purchasing as much as that stuff because, again, we're all
exactly.
getting older.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. And in the publications and media guides, that was a strong area too. But
Sure.
now nobody reads. Everything is on the Kindle and the iPad and the phone. Nobody reads, and media guides, programs have taken a plunge. And as you said, the old school have moved on. They've got everything. There's not enough young people to absorb that, you know. And I see it with the junior hockey that I do. For the vintage, they're okay still. When I say vintage, like a good friend of mine and collector, Sam Olson, he has a strict rule in that he collects pre-Reebok things like, Bauer, Nike, CCM of the 90s, early 2000s. But these new fans in Kamloops, Regina, Medicine Hat, Prince Albert, give them new stuff the last 5 years all day, and you couldn't care about a shirt from 20 years ago. But that's the vintage part that we like.
Yeah.
I'm seeing not enough. When I set up at the Toronto show in April, I did meet new people that bought. They're out there, but they're selective, like they're careful. They're selectively buying. And I wonder if that's going to be in jerseys. I mean, look at the junior teams, 40, 50 shirts each year, and there's 60 of them.
Oh,
3,000 shirts.
And if
The
the
NHL,
player doesn't go anywhere, or he doesn't have a fan following, or the family doesn't buy it, the demand is low.
In a junior team, 2022 shirts, you'll have 2 to 4 draft picks. What do you do with the rest, the 16 and 17 jerseys that are left over? Like Adam Schmidt and Dylan Lickenchuk out west, they just collect high-end players. I mean, okay, there's 3 or 4 out of the 20. What happens to the rest? Who's going to come in to do that once Nick is gone? I mean, who are the candidates? I don't see anybody.
Well, and it's,
I mean, Nathan Ross. I reached out to Nathan Rossi. Nathan Rossi, the big flipper on me. And he didn't even respond. I go, look, you got, dude, don't sit in front of your computer and just buy stuff from eBay and try to flip it. Go out there. There's inventory out there for you. Good inventory.
But I don't getting it in a bulk deal. You're still going to be able to make money off of that.
Why do people like that just hunt the eBay stuff to mark it up? I mean, when I'm gone and some other people are gone, who's going to take over? I don't see any. That's another threat. Who's going to take over? Who's going to fill the void?
And in some cases, because the market, like the junior market, is soft in general, unless it's particular players, is somebody that might think about getting into the business of selling jerseys may not want to touch those because the amount of work they have to do for the return isn't worth it. Yeah.
But you know what, Jason? When people like Nathan Rossi just scours eBay marketplace, that's a hell of a lot of work. And all you have to do is pick up the phone, make the contact with the team, and they got droves of jerseys ready to sell at great prices,
Sure. And I see that with some of the teams that show up on sideline or people selling on sideline or where they've bought a bulk buy from whatever team it is. And they, some of them are reasonable, or some of them, they sit and they sit and they sit. Well, you better eventually lower the price.
And when the strong dealer network of the 90s and 2000s moved on, there wasn't enough replacements coming in.
Right. And I don't know that there ever will be.
No, you're right there, Jason. Jason, that's another thing that is concerning too. So where will be the avenue? Where will there be deal? I mean, I've heard that another veteran leader, without naming names, is going around that Pittsburgh may be doing it themselves. And Joe Tolman is sorry I mentioned the name, but Joe Tolman's a hell of a guy. And
I bought from Joe over the years. The first time I bought from him and it came in the mail and I got the receipt and it said Tolman Funeral Home. I'm like, wait, what?
Funeral Home. I remember
that.
Threw
me off a little bit, but yeah, Joe, I've known Joe for a long time and I bought things here and there over the years. And again, he's been the guy for that for decades.
He's a gentleman, a scholar, and a great person to deal with. But let's say the rumor is true and Pittsburgh takes over them, I would like to see new dealers come in. I mean, there's room, but
it is a big, I mean, as you know, it's a big cost. And I've had friends reach out to teams to try and even buy just one home and road set so they could market them. And it was stupid money.
Yeah. Same in the IHF too now, Jason, and my bread and butter part of the World Hockey jerseys. The prices have dropped too on the IHF jerseys too. And I've scoured it. I've dealt with a lot of federations, and that takes a lot of work and language barriers too,
Oh,
you know.
right. As we talked about the last time you were here, is kind of how that whole program works, and
Yeah.
all the back end work you've got to do.
Like look at Connor O'Reilly, who put together the vintage tackler collection. He was telling me he was using different translation software to communicate with the person in Czech Republic, in Czechia, Slovakia, Poland. I couldn't do that with my health right now. I couldn't do that, Jason.
Yeah, that's
I couldn't.
exhausting.
It is, and it's too bad that there aren't more Connor O'Reillys, myself, who it it's a great venture for somebody who would like to do it. But I see a lot of hesitation. I mean, I reached out to Nathan Rossi because I said, look, it seems like you're young, you're going gung ho about it. Try the teams, buy it, or try some inventory from me from the teams. Never got back to me, you know. There's a few others like who buy from me, and then you see it on eBay for double. And I reached out and said, look, the teams are waiting for you. I don't see, it's not a gamble. It's not a big gamble, you know. I mean, I've been doing it for so many years. It's not really a big gamble.
And maybe what it is too is you and I grew up with watching, I mean, watching hockey in general as we were younger and
Mhm.
coming up, and seeing these jerseys show up in the stores of the team sometimes, or with in the hockey magazines where you could
Yeah.
buy them, and they were hard to get a hold of. They were, you
Yeah.
followed that player, you were
Yeah.
behind them, you wanted to pick up the
Yeah.
jersey, be it a low level player or somebody
Mhm.
big like Brett Hull, Doug Waite, the, any of those kind of players, the big name guys. But now when it's, I can get on my computer and
Yeah.
find, either if I don't want to spend the money for a game or get an authentic that's crap, or
Yeah.
easily find my team, there's
Mhm.
no there's no challenge anymore. And
No.
the average,
Yeah.
you've got the mix between the let's say the hardcore collector, and then the fan that might pick up a few. And I've you and I've talked to both, and we're out here trying to educate
Yeah.
the next wave of
Mhm.
collectors, and some are very receptive, and others come in
Yeah.
brand new and just think because they've read some crap on the internet they're an expert in this now.
Yeah. Yeah. You said collectors. What about future prospective dealers? I don't see any. I
Right, that's the big concern, is 10 years from now how many dealers are going to be left that aren't
and
companies.
where will be the network for the distribution of these things?
Right.
Who's going to take over the IHF aspect of things? I've opened a lot of doors. I mean, it's there, but I don't see people banging down the doors, Jason, to get involved. Junior market, I give credit to Adam Schmidt and Dylan Lickenchuk and all that, but it's not just the star players. I mean, if you buy 10 or 12, the teams will give you a good deal, you know?
And I've even
What's the
tried that
future?
with my
What's,
junior team, is offered to put them out, besides because they use Dash, and then in the
yeah,
just in the house. But there's other people that want that
yeah,
design or whatever, and the team's like, nah, we don't want to mess with it. Okay, fine. Your market's a shitload smaller.
yeah. You brought up a good point now. Another factor that I've plays a role in when I'm, you know, packing it in. Auctions, Jason. Everybody's going to auctions.
Mm-hmm.
Dash, 32 auctions. I mean, they've dropped the ball the way they handle. I mean, these auction companies don't want to answer questions, and you lose the personal customer service.
Sure.
You see, Dash, they got hundreds of teams on board, Jason,
Oh
from
yeah.
baseball, football, hockey, minor leagues.
And
Is that the future? Is that the future distribution network?
well, and the thing is this right here is your cell phone. They have you.
Yeah,
One of the big things is when you're in the arena, be it a
yeah,
football stadium, baseball,
yeah,
hockey, whatever, they're on the jumbotron. Hey, there's an auction going on
yeah,
right now. Why don't you check it out? Well,
yeah,
you can whip out the computer in your pocket and immediately see,
yeah,
oh crap,
yeah,
I'm seeing that jersey in front of me. I can
yeah,
I'm immediately connected, and I'm more likely to place a bid or learn about it being
mhm,
in the arena. And
yeah.
you've opened up your
That's what my
marketplace.
that's my concern. Where will be the future distributions? For me, I see the dealers, they may not be around in the next 5 years. The auction houses, that's hard to say. And I think it's all going to be digital, as you said. 32 auctions, Dash, CHL auctions, Givergy that does Hockey Canada. I mean, that was my baby in the 90s and 2000s. I used to get those jerseys. And you know, I've got a good relationship with the boys in Calgary. I mean, I've been there since I was there since the early 90s. I'm now an alumni member, you know, I'm registered with them. They just use the auctions, you know, for the women's, the men's. I used to get those sets from Denny Hinault, Troy Parchment, Laurie Bush in the early 90s. And we had the mail-in program, Hockey News, SCD. And everything's now auction. Is that the future? Auctions? I mean, don't forget the auction houses aren't cheap for the teams. They take
Right.
from both the buyer and the seller, you know.
And I don't know, like St. Louis uses Give Smart and some of the other
Yeah.
teams use them as well. I don't know what if they pay like a yearly subscription or if Give Smart and Dash gets a cut of each auction.
Dash gets a cut from both sides.
Okay.
They charge a buyer's premium for the buyer, 3-4% or something like that. Brady Shave and Moose Jaw with the Warriors, he said, Nick, I know what you're saying. CHL auctions 1 to 10%. It's just a platform.
Wow.
There's no people there's no calling up CHL auctions to get questions answered, you know?
Because
So
the
what's the
team's still
value?
doing all the work. It's just that's the platform or the software
Yeah,
to put it out to everybody.
yeah.
God,
But
that's a
there's no
huge
team
cut for that.
I mentioned that in some of the posts on Facebook. These kind of auction houses, that'd be beautiful if there was a team representative and liaison, you know, being there to answer the questions.
Sure.
That would be a true working operation, working great, but it's not happening. It's not
And
happening.
we've seen we have seen, and I mentioned a little bit before, is we've seen teams take stuff in house, and some
Yeah.
teams, I will say, to their credit, have learned and seem to do well and seem to understand it, and others, it's a disaster. Is either their pricing is screwed up, what they sell they don't disclose properly, and then it gets messy because once that comes out that okay they're selling all these that are either made up and the player never touched it or they duplicated all that, then those teams get kicked in the ass because they didn't do their proper thing, and in some cases get sued over it. We've seen lawsuits in both the US and Canada over that stuff.
I know. But the teams are loyal to these auction sites.
And as long as they get their money, in most cases they don't care.
They don't care, Jason. But a lot of veteran collectors do care.
Sure, and because we put our
we care.
We put our heart and soul into this stuff.
Yeah, I know. I put my heart and soul since the early 90s when I started, and it's a passion. I'm passionate about it, and I don't like what's going to happen. I don't like the changes, and I'm not saying it out of arrogance or ignorance. I'm just I can see the writing on the wall, and
well, and you've seen how things have changed over your career.
Yeah. The thing that will be disappointed is if nobody does the junior shirts or the IHF. They're beautiful jerseys. They're one of a kind. They're one of a kind. There's no 4 sets, 5 sets, 6 sets, you know.
Now, have you talked to many of the IHF teams about what
their
plans are?
Most of them, Jason, are run out of a house. It's like a mom and pop. I brought that up when I was an alternate delegate with Greece last year in Turkey, in Antalya, Belek. I went to the marketing conference seminar, and then Shelby, Mal, and a few others from the IHF, and there were the marketing people of each federation. I was I put up my hand as the last speaker, and I gave out an all passionate, basically who I was, what I've done with Team Canada, what I've been doing with you guys, the federations. Or a lot of them didn't know about me. My colleague Sotiris from the federation in Greece, who was the head delegate, the governor, as you know, give people a chance to delegates. The IHF semi-annual and annual congress is like the equivalent of the NHL board of governors meeting. If you can get in there, you've reached the cherry on top of the cake, and what a great experience to be in the small United Nations room of 80 countries. I gave out a passionate speech of who I was, and Sotiris after came up and said, "Bravo, you did well." And I want to tell you something. Some delegates next to me were saying, "Who is this guy? Where has he been? Where is he? Who is he?" And I basically said, IHF, why can't you have a program for? And I talked to a few delegates after, Jason, the logistics. I've been in Europe, lived there in 17 years. It's different. A lot of bureaucracy. It's a close-knit community. There's VATs, there's value-added taxes in each country that's different. It's collected different. Here's another thing for my fellow collectors and all that with the IHF and TACLA and all that. It's that there's logistic nightmares of having a lot of the federations, the hockey programs controlled by the Olympic Committee. And you know how the Olympic committees and the IOC are strict with marketing, license, and advertising.
Sure.
I'll bring up an example. I met the new lady from Croatia. I used to deal with Eva Tuber, very sweet lady. You pick up the phone in Zagreb. She picks up the phone in Zagreb. How many shirts do you need, Nick? What do you need? And when she left, and it was taken over by the Croatian Olympic Committee, Maria, who I met in Belek, Turkey at the Semi-Annual Congress, you know what she said? And I almost cried. She goes, our government and the committee, Olympic Committee, has put the lids on selling because it's property of the Olympic Committee, the Croatian Olympic Committee. We rather throw them out or burn them before we sell them.
That's stupid because Croatia doesn't have a lot of money. You'd think by selling
No,
those, they would help fund future things.
Jason, I've lived in the EU. I've lived in Greece. I've gotten to travel to these countries and the Congress. It's more, they stick together, and that's why the euro is strong. I mean,
sure,
for a month, 115, and for us Canadians, I mean, Canadian dollars toilet paper over there, it's 152. So on 10,000 Canadian dollars, it's just 6,400 euros. And you lose 3,600 euros. You lose 5,000 bucks to the exchange. Poof, in the air. You don't get that back. So I want to educate my friends and collectors in the IHF. And I've talked to Connor O'Reilly and a few others, Anthony Farah, Gary Lawrence. They would welcome that, but the logistics and who was it? The delegate from Spain, a great guy, and Sergey from Spain, great guy. I've done business with them for many years, and they appreciate that. He goes, Nick, it's a logistics nightmare. What VAT is going to be collected? How is the IHF going to distribute that money? How are they going to get through the obstacle of the Olympic committees? Like Qatar, United Arab Emirates, their hockey program falls under the Olympic Committee. Once you're under the Olympic Committee, you got to abide by the IOC, and they're strict with advertising. They protect their logos, Jason. And when Maria from Croatia said it's better for us to throw them out, inside of me, I just went, oh, yeah, that was the worst thing I've heard throughout all the years.
That's sad. You'd think, again, Croatia's not a rich country.
No, it's not. I mean, they just entered the EU, and if they enter the euro, they're going to get destroyed, like Greece. Greece has no business in the euro because the euro is a strong currency, Jason. It's an industrial currency, like the Germanys, countries that have the Northern Italies, countries like Greece. I mean, look at Czechia and Slovakia. They're not in the euro. Poland's not in the euro. Hungary's not in the euro. They don't have the industry. When Greece entered the euro, any industry and factories they had moved to Turkey, it was cheaper. Moved to Albania, to Macedonia. The IHF follows. Like the IHF was run close-knit, and a classic example is the president before NFSL, Gunther Zabitsky. He ran that like a ma and pa closed shop. Those were the dark ages. I mean, here's a joke, but it's true. The Winter Olympic tournament in Calgary was about to be canceled because he hadn't arrived yet in his limousine,
Jeez.
But that's, we're talking about the Eagleson, Zabetsky, Wirtz, Ziegler clan, I mean, And a lot of those federations in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, I thought a federation was this big loyal order of water buffalo federation, you know?
Hmm.
And it turns out most of them, I'll give you an example. Most of them were run out part-time, like the Greek Federation under Mr. Hadzi Athanasiou. His office in northern Athens, a suburb in Marousi, it was staffed from 6:30 to 8:30. Mr. Hadzi Athanasiou had his import-export company during the day.
So it was his
So
afternoon, evening work.
that's right. And you know what? It's hard to change. That's why Europe, they can't live together, but they can live together under a common currency because there's different cultures. There's thousands of years of different cultures there.
Oh, sure.
And I think that's one reason why you cannot get like NHL, all the leagues in North America have a league-wide marketing and merchandising, not in the IHF. And it's for those reasons, Jason, and to everyone listening out there, and to my friends and fans and collector customers in the IHF, I hate to disappoint you, but I've tried, and my passionate plea last year in Belek, it was great. People respected that, and even Shelby from the IHF, she said, it's difficult. We're all different federations in different countries with different legislation, from tax to advertising to sponsors to marketing. They have this big company called Infront, but people like us that I've mentioned don't really know what Infront is, and the IHF pays them big money. From what I figured out, Infront is just broadcasting rights. So there's it's not a marketing company, just doesn't do broadcasting. It does licensing.
Sure.
But they don't do that. And maybe
It sounds like a lot of teams are missing the boat, but they don't
are,
do any kind of
Jason.
effort. They complain about, well, this rule or that rule or this happens. You know what? Then you start rattling the cages of those people and saying you're losing out on this money. You're losing out on what could be huge amounts of money.
That would help development, new
Right.
arenas, development. That's why here with the Greece program that I'm with, the merchandise, the jerseys, the pucks, pennants, and it took 2 years from the day I presented it to them with my presentation. It took 2 years to get the signatures required and the approval just for a merchandise program.
But they saw the benefits of that.
Yes, that the money is going to be used for arena to build the rink, and regulation size rink, and to fund the program. And the Ukraines of the world and the Serbias, there's countries that are hurting. They don't get money from the state. They don't get money from the Olympic committees. They're on their own. And they've got jerseys dating back to the 90s. I mean, another example, Hungary, good friends with Zoltan Kovacs. He's the general secretary, and his president is above him, right? And he's always helped me in the past with jerseys, and he wants to help me. And you know what he said to me at Belek? He goes, you know how much I love to help you. And I go, yeah. And he goes, the president and I don't see eye to eye on a few things. And one of them is raising money from the merchandise and the jerseys and all that. Because Hungary now is Division A. Could you imagine you could get good money for the Hungary Division A Nike jerseys?
Oh, yeah.
No, Zoltan does not, even though he's a general secretary, president won't let him sell.
You've got things that are just sitting there that will generate lots of revenue, and you'll just let them sit instead.
Yes, they are sitting there. There's a lot of federations, Jason, that they've got stuff from the 90s, the old night, like South Africa, another good federation that I've dealt with Dylan and Jason Surf. We met in Belek, and he understood that. And they've got jerseys from the 90s, the Nike and S&P jerseys that are peeling because it was all heat press.
Jeez. But still, people would clamor to get those.
Yes, there's, as I said, on the IHF jersey page, the Dmitry Shmerkeviches, the Gary Lawrences, the Anthony Farahs, the vintage collectors.
Mm-hmm.
They would buy them all day and all night, but they can't get them out.
But the people in charge are idiots or bad rules.
That's part of it, yes, but they don't think outside the box. Vision, you gotta look outside the box,
right? So, Now that you've launched the Greece program, how is that since the last time we talked? How's
Well,
that
I want to
program?
update everybody with good news. Tomorrow I leave for Montreal. We're playing our first 3 games after 10 years
Wow.
of inactivity. It is a team of North American Greeks from Greek parents, or probably a grandfather somewhere down the road. Like the baseball teams in Athens in '04, like the softball, the ladies Greece team. Most of them were Jones and Smith, but they found a granny somewhere in a town outside Athens or a village in Tripoli or Sparti, or Mistra, that was Greek.
Made that link back there.
And our players tomorrow for the 3 games against Lebanon are players that have played in the Quebec Hockey League that have Greek citizenship from their parents. There's collegiate George Makrakostas is a very good player on the Robert Morris team in Pennsylvania, the college.
Mhm.
Our Latin Cup team includes guys like the Zegras cousins of the Zegras who plays in Anaheim.
Oh yeah.
Nick Porikos, who was in Michigan, the University of Michigan. Paul Rank, I would let you know we have an old Michigan
Yes,
Wolverine player on our
Paul's a
team.
big Michigan guy.
So the players this weekend are, see, again, the strict rules of the IHF and Greece is still under the old ways of, the fakilaki, the envelope with the money under the table, the
Hmm.
bribes, Mediterranean culture, Jason.
Sure.
They're strict. You have to be living in Greece, playing in a league for 2 years with a regulation size ring. We don't have that. So we've drawn upon Greeks abroad to form a heritage team, not a national team, but a heritage team that allows us to wear the colors of Greece and to play in non-sanctioned IHF tournaments, which
But it gets
this
the
3 games.
recognition and the name out there to help
Yes,
this program grow.
that's what we're doing. You know what? That's what we're doing. And then the Latin Cup in August in Sunrise, Florida. That's a big accomplishment too. The Latin Cup is North American, Central America, and South America. Argentina, Brazil, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, which has really come on. Maybe we'll see Leon Messi play for Argentina, the hockey team,
And it's
But
Florida, so it's beautiful to go down there anyway.
we're playing at the Sunrise facility of the Florida Panthers.
Very nice.
And it's, hey, again, we reached the cherry atop of the
Hmm.
chocolate cake. It's covered by the NHL streaming, and it's a great way to get the sport back on ice, to get Greece back on ice, But the obstacle will be the arena and getting the boys to go to Greece, which they have military obligations still,
Hmm.
and you have to go at least 3 to 6 months. The wages are not that good down there. I mean, our captain tomorrow, George Makrakostas, he's entering law school. I mean, he's not going to move down to Greece and work for 700-800 euros a month as a lawyer, where he can make 100,000 here.
Right.
There's about 250 players left in Greece that are registered. I mean, what we're doing basically, we're getting back on ice, giving them some enthusiasm and it can be done. And maybe we can get a national team mixture of the players in Greece and the Greek diaspora, the Greeks abroad,
Mhm.
In our merchandise program, it was like, again, Greece and the symbols are run by the Hellenic Olympic Committee. We had, the president, Mr. Sotiris Patsalas, who's in charge of hockey, had to work extra to convince the Hellenic Olympic Committee to let the colors and the symbols be used for fundraising. And, that was very nice of them. And all those gentlemen were outside the box thinking, and they saw that it's a good revenue generator.
Well, and
So
it's a way to grow the program as you get those out. It's
yeah,
advertising.
that was a great accomplishment. And you know what? I may be stepping down from World Hockey Jersey Canada and the jerseys, but I will continue as best I can to get Greece back in international competition, IHF Division 3. I'm Greek. I lived there for 17 years. Mom and dad are Greek. I love the country, and I want to give something back to the country that I lived with for, and I continue to go down because it's a beautiful country. Maybe I'll be the manager of a hockey rink. You never know, down in Greece, in Athens. Our plan will be to start with a hockey rink, a bubble format. Just put the pad, the regulation ice, and the tennis bubble, you know?
Yeah.
That fulfills the requirement for the hockey having a rink. And after that, the development comes easy, you know? We plan on having men's and women's teams, you know? We're looking at investors to help too. Like the Greeks abroad are strong. They're passionate about the country, you know?
And I know you mentioned before is making the connections with the Greeks that are in the NHL or have
Yes. I talked to Chris Kontos a few days ago. That was nice. He was happy to know that we're back on ice and he's willing to help. We gave us Andreas Athanasiou the Greece jersey when I was in Toronto at the game, after the game. I was told that he follows us now on the Greek ice hockey Instagram page, you know?
Very nice.
There's the Zegras family who's Trevor, I think, plays with Anaheim. I think, is it Trevor Zegras?
Yep, that would be it.
And his two cousins are playing with us in the Latin Cup, you know. We had Oren Cool's son, Miles. Oren was the owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning with Len Barry, if you remember. But he's Cypriot and he couldn't get the Greek papers, so he had to bow out. So we have some good, you know, the players we're going to have this weekend and the players we're going to have at Latam, they're junior Division 1 schools, the NCAA, Greeks that played in Europe in the Swedish Elite League. Like, we got a good, strong team. And
I say these aren't just average. These aren't beer league players you're pulling.
No, they're not. No, the management from Panos Mavridis, Coach Tasso Kirkos, and the other assistant coach, Spiro Anastasiadis, who's been a scout in the NHL, who's coached with Grand Rapids, Griffins, and all that. They've painstakingly searched for Greeks. And there's a lot of Greeks, and there were a lot of Greeks from Mike Caracas in Chicago in the 30s to Chris Katsopoulos, Chris Chelios must be the GOAT, the greatest of all time Greek, you know?
But you're doing an amazing job growing this, and I think it's going to grow leaps and bounds quickly the way you're running it.
Well, and from everybody, the players, the management, Sotiris, the vice president, flew out. He arrived this morning to be in Montreal with us, and if that shows a good commitment, serious commitment from the Atlantic. Bravo, that was a great move, and you know he's going to talk to everybody about the requirements and all that to let people know really what's going on. You know, it's the first time in 10 years. It feels good, Jason. It feels
it's how you build that program. It's how you cause this to explode. And I mean, youth hockey and stuff is growing everywhere, not just in the US, not just in Canada, around the world.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Countries, there's 80 countries almost in the IHF, and hockey's being played in the hot, exotic areas where the only ice is in a drink of rum and ouzo, you know, in Greece.
I mean,
look at Turkey. Look at Turkey, Division 2. And in Istanbul, they got 14 rinks and the last few new rinks have private boxes, eh? Wow. Turkey of all countries. Yeah. And United Arab Emirates and Qatar and all that. Philippines.
That area is getting insane with that. I know guys that have played in some of the leagues over there and talking about stories and that. And it's insane what's being done. Ice in the desert.
Yeah. Ice in the desert. With the camels, the camels, you know. The author from Canada, Dave Bedini, the hockey nomad, wrote a good book about his trips around those countries, and it's beautiful. You never would think there'd be hockey there.
It's crazy to see, but you know what? It grows the sport, it grows the hobby. You wanted to touch on too is you mentioned earlier your eBay presence.
I want to say the last topic I'd like to cover. There's some of you guys out there that think, you know, I've done wrong and all that. I don't feel that way. I mean, now that I'm moving on, I've been doing this since the early 90s. I've worked with a lot of solid organizations, working for Hockey Canada, with the IHF, with Greece, being a trainer for Hockey Canada, the Calgary Stampeders, the roller hockey team, Toronto, the Planets, going to the IHF meetings since 2010 as a guest observer and a delegate. I mean, if I wasn't that good and if my reputation was awful, I wouldn't even get into the door in these things. I wouldn't be hired. I wouldn't, you know. And there are some people that I've seen comments and all that about me, you know, doesn't bother me at all. And look at my feedback, 3,000 plus positives, you know, must be doing something good, you know. And you know what?
Say
Go
as
ahead.
somebody who did 6 years of talk radio here in the United States, and
Mhm.
one of my sayings was, if I'm not pissing some people off, I'm not doing things right.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
it just it happened. No matter what business or thing you're doing, you're
Mhm.
not 100% of the people aren't going to be happy for some reason.
No, I know that. I know that. But you know what? I've never ripped off anybody in terms of jerseys, bad jerseys. Um, I've never led anybody astray. I work hard to research and to help people, you know. And you know why it doesn't bother me, Jason? If one or two people comment bad against me, I know there's 10 new people out there waiting to come down, knock my door, to grab that jersey and for me to go the extra mile. So it doesn't, you know what? Over the last little while, that's how I think about it. And I'm at peace with myself. I know what I've done for this hobby and hockey and all sports. My record speaks for itself. And I wouldn't be doing these positions if my reputation and my contributions were less than 100%. You know that.
And you've got some beautiful, I'm on your eBay page right now. You've got some
Yeah.
beautiful authentics. You've got some
Yeah.
game worn stuff, a good mix of everything.
That's
Football,
my,
baseball,
yeah.
basketball, you've got it all.
Like, you know what? I love auctions and offerings that are covering variety. You try to cater to everybody. You don't have the same stuff every time. And that's why I've managed to bring in new people from the baseball world, from the football, from basketball into hockey, and vice versa. So if I wasn't that good and if I had negative feedback, and you know, sometimes though, people who have criticized me, they've done things that they was wrong, you know. I can think of two examples, but I'm not gonna, you know, why should I? I mean, to me, it happened, but you know what? Two bad experiences equals 10 to 20 new great experiences. That's how I look at it.
Sure.
I don't hold a grudge against anybody. It happens, as you said. You may it's in the nature to piss some people off. Nobody, you're not gonna be liked by everybody, but you know what? If you give the best effort consistently in and out every night, like a good hockey team, like a good corporation, like a good worker, everything will be okay. And one more thing I've noticed, people get all edgy and frustrated about not getting the jersey they want. Hey, everybody, relax. In this hobby, one beautiful thing is that jersey comes back
Yep.
around in the hobby.
And
Trust me,
sometimes it shows up when you least expect it.
and trust me, everyone. I've seen a lot of jerseys that I've gotten rid of that I said, oh, shucks, why? And lo and behold, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, it comes back and it comes back at a good price. It comes back. And you know what? Don't pout. Don't make, don't go on the Facebook pages and complain and all that. Relax. There's enough jerseys for everybody. We
Right.
talked about it tonight. How many jerseys are
Especially
we?
in the modern jersey world, look how many
Yeah.
people wear them. Wait
Yeah.
till this coming season with the Blackhawks. How many is going to be worn by Connor Bedard?
Oh, yeah. And you know, Chicago's marketing department is not going to
Oh,
miss an opportunity there.
same way I just recently picked up some Eric Johnson jerseys. The Blues are
Yeah.
cleaning out their closets.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I got one from his rookie year, and written on the fight strap is whatever the date of the game was with a 3. I reached out to the trainer from that time, and he's like, yeah, he was wearing multiple games. He'd wear one per period, and we'd date them, and they'd be given to different people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, who knows how many of those are floating out there?
Yeah. I've noticed that over the years, Jason, people get edgy and some negative stuff, but boys and girls, relax. Jerseys come back,
And
and
it's
believe
it's
me,
not like
being
it's a jersey from 40 or 50 years ago where
no,
only a handful of them exist, and you
yeah,
you might wait a lifetime to see it. If it's anything modern, you can
yeah.
either buy a different one or
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
a lot of times those come back around with social media.
Even the jerseys from the 90s and 2000s, they come back. They come
Mhm.
back. So it's not worth it to get edgy and all that. Look out for your health. Look out for your well-being.
Well,
Look
and
at the
like you kind of started the show with too, is it's not about
no,
the fabric in the jerseys. It's about
it's
the
people.
connections and the people.
People. Do unto others. Do not do unto others that you don't want them to do to you. It's for
Right.
fabric,
So
for jerseys.
so Nick, what is your time frame kind of with exiting the hobby, or do you really have
Yeah.
an official time frame?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah, I do. I'm going to be more active in selling. So, boys and girls, watch out for eBay. There'll be more active selling with great stuff that hasn't been seen before. I do have a little treasure chest still, but there'll be great offerings from the NHL, IHF, juniors, football, baseball, basketball. Um, I'll be selling. As I said, I've completed all my deals that I needed to. From now on, it's going to be selling, and I'm going to roll up my sleeves more and concentrate on getting help in Greece as much as I can. And by 2024, midsummer, late summer, early 2025, it's a dream of mine. It's going to happen. I'm going to go back to Greece to retire because just south of 60, the Mediterranean and Greece is the best place to retire.
Well, and you can help out being right there. You can
Yes.
help out
You
that
know what?
program.
Exactly. As you mentioned, by then, maybe the first rink in Athens opens up. And
Get your name on a plaque in there.
I would, if my family can contribute to it, it would be an honor to have my late father. Because in Greece, the stadiums and the arenas have names, they're named after various people.
Mhm.
And that would be because my dad grew up in Greece. And, if I can help them out and all that, that'd be an honor to do that. I lived in Greece for 17 years and I started World Hockey Jerseys in Greece. I mean, who starts a hockey jersey business in Greece?
Oh, it's beautiful there. I mean, it's just
I
shipping
don't know.
takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, I know some people won't name names and all that, but it's a beautiful country. And you know what? Maybe we'll have the first rink in Athens and Thessaloniki, which is the equivalent of Toronto, Montreal, 510 kilometers. And maybe there's a full-fledged league, and soon the team will be back in the IHF. The Greek gods are by our side.
Well, I wish you the best in your health and in the
Thanks a
future
lot.
of everything with Greece and getting their program. I know
Mhm.
you're super passionate about it, and I'm excited
Yeah.
to continue to follow and get the updates on that. Any other final thoughts before we get out of here this evening?
Yeah. And to all the collectors and people that I've met, the people will always be what I remember the most, the fabric second. And I've sold a lot of jerseys since the early 90s. Must have over 15,000 jerseys out there in people's collections. And that says a lot. That says a lot about how I managed and how I first started out as a small dealer, and dad had a restaurant and he didn't have time to take his son to play hockey in a cold rink 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. He had to go to his restaurant. And when Team Canada came calling in early 90s, that was a thrill of a lifetime and it fulfilled the dream. And it led to expansion of the jersey business. And isn't it interesting, full circle? I'm back with the team now. Preach.
Hey,
No
that
regrets.
well,
And I,
Nick, again, thank. How can everybody get a hold of you, or easiest way to reach out to you for anything you may have?
yes, my auctions will be more regularly, twice a month. My website, WHJCanada.com. All my contact information is there. If you're looking for something that I don't have, but I can help you, my door is open. And if you need any research question on IHF, junior jersey, I also have an extensive Hockey Night in Canada library from the 50s, actual complete
Wow.
broadcasts on DVD converted from the kinescopes back
Oh,
then. I
geez.
have over 1,000. Yeah, and I'm thinking I'm making that available. These are games that are not the part of classic TV or Leafs TV. These are the actual games with intermissions back then. And the way hockey is today, Jason and everyone, if I want my hockey fix, I watch those games because that's what I grew up with, the Dave Hodge, Danny Gallivan, the in-studio interviews after the first and second periods. I have a treasure chest of those games, digitally remastered as if you were watching it yesterday.
Wow,
And I
that
would
is
like to make that
insane.
available. I'm going to make that available to everybody. And it's perfect for video matching, for research, and to enjoy, and part of that collection is I try to help people. So I may be leaving the hobby, but my door is always open. If anybody needs help with authentication or the insights of a jersey where it came from, I'll always be there. And that's the true way of exiting, but being there for everybody.
Well,
I
Nick,
want to thank,
again, oh, sorry, go ahead.
thanks to you for having me on the show. And to all my clients and customers and friends, thanks for your confidence and trust. And when you buy from me, as you see by my eBay feedback, I always ship on time. I always get it out quickly. I always research my products as painstakingly as possible because, I started in the 90s where research and homework was basically non-existent. I learned it from there, and it was great that I started there. I honed and learned new skills. And I want to wish everybody the best with health, happiness, and the best in life always to you and your families. So it's
Well,
been a
Nick,
great, 33 years.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy Montreal with the tournament up there
Yeah. And
goes well and you get to enjoy yourself.
I'll post pictures on the IHF page and on my website. It's a big thrill. Tomorrow marks the first time in 10 years that Greece is back on ice. I remember the Lightning, their first year motto, kick ice. Greece, we are back on ice.
Well, take some time to just take it all in and enjoy it, Nick. And I hope you have an amazing time up there. I know we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, Jason, and have a wonderful evening to you and everybody. And God bless. Thank you.